Hello. So I recently read A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Um, this is the first book in her Flesh and Fire series, which is the prequel series to the From Blood and Ash series. And I recently made a video basically just gushing about From Blood and Ash. I was really excited when I finished that series because like romantasy doesn't typically work for me. So when I found one that just like checked so many boxes for me, I was so surprised. Um, and so far, I love the prequels even more. So, like, Shadow in the Ember was an instant 5-star book for me. It's about Seraphina and Nyktos, who become the primals of life and death in the From Blood and Ash series, and it's about when he took her as the consort. You learn a lot about the history about like why he had to end up taking her as a consort. You know, from Nectus's 10-page explanation at the end of War of Two Queens that um, essentially Colas was the true primal of death. He and Ethos switched so that he became the primal of life, but after they switched, Ethos put um, the embers of the primal of life into Seraphina, and you basically get more of the backstory on this. And so the book starts out with Seraphina. She was the first maiden that was mentioned within the From Blood and Ash series, and she has been tasked with killing Nyktos, the primal of death, because one of her ancestors made a deal with who you thought was Nyktos at the time, that there would be a rot that would destroy the mortal realm, their kingdom, Lysania, if Nyktos did not receive the first daughter born of the Morel bloodline as his consort. So, to stop the rot, because the kingdom does not want to be under the thumb of the primal of death, Sarah has been trained her entire life to seduce and then kill Nyktos, because they have found that primals, if they can love another, that is one of their weaknesses. And so she is trained her entire life. You find she is ostracized from the rest of her family. She is very much like Poppy in the other series, forced to wear a veil because they want to keep her existence under wraps. She is a princess, not treated as such. She is treated as the maiden, separate from her entire family. And her family, you find, sucks. And then it's the time that she turns 16. They summon Nyktos. He essentially says, I have no need of a consort, and leaves, and this entire plan is thrown to the dust because he had no need of a consort. And so everything that she has trained for her entire life has just been gone in an instant. And you find that her family treats her terribly. You find that like a couple years later she does end up running into Nyktos again, and things ensue, and he ends up having to take her as a consort, which then starts off the story that we kind of got teased in the From Blood and Ash series of the two of them coming together, having to fight Colas. You start to learn a lot about like the prophecy from Blood and Ash. You learn about a lot of the other gods that are not yet the primals from the From Blood and Ash series. And it's, again, it's like the origin story to Seraphina and Nyktos becoming who they were in the From Blood and Ash series. And I adored this even more than From Blood and Ash. I've said that already. This was an instant 5 stars for me. I loved the characters. I loved a lot of the story. I would say that this is a lot slower than From Blood and Ash. And a lot of it feels less dramatic to me in the beginning. But I just loved it so much. I connected so much to Sarah and Nyktos and so many of the other side characters. I'm so intrigued by a lot that it has been teased within this book, and I'm just gonna talk about it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, this is your warning. I would definitely leave now. I am going to just talk about it in all sorts of spoilers. So, bye if you would like to leave. So I am going to split this up into like character stuff and then like lore plot points. I think I'm going to talk about characters first because I mean, if you've ever listened to me, you know I am a very character-driven reader. And that's usually like what sticks with me in a book. So and I love these characters, so I'm just going to talk about them. I instantly connected so much to Sarah, like so much more than Poppy. I love Poppy, I love Castile, I love Kieran. I loved this cast of characters so much more. I adored them. I personally just connect a lot to Sarah. I even in like her worst moments, I get her. I get the feeling that she always has when she just doesn't have a filter and says stuff, and then like just a second later I love her thought process where she'll say something and then she's like, why did I say that? Why did I say that? I don't understand why I said that. I don't know. I love how she just like stabs without thinking. And I loved just her general connection with Nyctos. Like their banter was fantastic. I loved that moment where he snuck up on her by accident and she she stabbed him with the Shadowstone dagger, and then she realized what she'd done. And like he wasn't even mad. He was just like, you stabbed me. I don't know. It was just funny. Jennifer L. Armentrout's humor really works for me, and like their just banter throughout this entire book like had me like laughing out loud so many times. I think that she is a really complex, and I think that the writing for her is very subtle, where like even though we are in her head, I think that she has a lot going on under the surface that she hasn't necessarily even gotten the chance to unpack and process. Like her family has so clearly abused her for so many years, and yes, she understands that on some level, but I think that she's just so well written in that she doesn't have a value for her life in the way that other people do. She has been raised for this one purpose. The minute it was gone, she was ostracized by her family even more, and you do see that it has taken her some time to separate herself from that. She doesn't have a desire to live her life for herself still. You see that that is programmed into her. You see that despite the abuse she has gotten, like from her mom specifically, her mom gives her just enough that she still cares about her. And I think that that scene where her stepfather died was so telling, because her first thought, despite the fact that her mother will not show her any love or affection, and Sarah doesn't think she necessarily deserves that, and she understands that on some level she does hate her mom, her first thought is like, how is my mom, when she realizes her stepdad died. And I think that it's very, very sad. And I think Nyctos is good for her because she had so few people in her life that actually loved her for her, saw past what she was supposed to accomplish. I hate her family, by the way, because they just put all of their problems on her, and yet they have so much greed that they won't actually do anything themselves. They've just chosen to put all of the blame on Serafina, and I think it's horrible. I like her sister Ezra. Her sister Ezra did a very, very good job actually giving a shit about this kingdom, and not sitting back and just hoping for a band-aid solution like the rest of her family. Like, I did not like her mom. Obviously her brother was horrible. I really liked that moment. I didn't like the moment where their father died, and her stepfather was no longer allowed to stop her awful, awful brother from abusing her, essentially. And yeah, I just really liked that moment where she killed him when Nyktos finally came to actually take her. So, yeah. I hate her family. Obviously, it's everybody except for Ezra I did not like. But again, that's where Nyktos comes in. And Nyktos, like, she doesn't immediately know that it's him. However, they have, like, this instant connection. Like, clearly they are two very broken people. And, like, both of them fulfill something in the other's life that they need. And I think that their relationship was just so sweet from the get-go. Like, obviously, like, Sarah is not very open to others. She doesn't really, she doesn't open up to anyone, and she didn't fully open up to Nyktos, but like there was an instant level of comfort between the two of them where he listened to her, he saw her for who she was and not what she was. It was just really understated and sweet, and I loved that. And I also loved what she gave to Nyktos. Like, clearly he also has a lot that we haven't actually if I could talk, he has a lot that he hasn't necessarily told Sarah, that he hasn't really unpacked, but it's clear he has had a really, really hard life as well, and he has a level of comfort with her, which makes the reveal at the end of her being sent to kill him the entire time so sad. But yeah, I love Nyktos. I think he really did a lot for Sarah. I loved just the kindness that he showed her all the time, where she had never really had unconditional kindness showed to her by a lot of people in her life, except for maybe her sister, maybe Holland. But like, Nyktos was the first person to just welcome her with open arms, like not judge her, actually like her for who she was. Like, she is a lot. I think Sarah's a lot. She is a wild child. She has been told by everyone. She has had so many people try to take her down. So to have Nyktos come in and just like her for who she is, I thought was really sweet and an understated part of this story. And what I'm saying is, I don't know if I'm doing a great job of saying this, but their relationship just worked immediately, and it didn't feel dramatic. It didn't feel super passionate all the time, and that's just something that I liked. I liked seeing them fit together in a day-to-day that was really, really, really sweet. I loved Castile and Poppy. My thing was, like, they were just so passionate all the time. They were both a lot, and I love them. But this was almost a bit more refreshing for me, just because, again, I just liked seeing them fit themselves into each other's lives. It was really beautiful. I thought that they healed each other in ways that haven't even been fully explored yet, because by the end of this book, obviously Nyktos eventually takes her as his consort, because she kills her brother and can't necessarily live in the mortal realm anymore. And then he learns that she was sent to kill him, and it was so sad, because you realize that he was opening up to someone. Everybody finally said, like, he's never been able to do this. Like, you bring something out of him that's beautiful, and like, Sarah, you see Sarah grappling with this guilt, and when he finds out, he's not even, he doesn't stop being kind to her, and I think that's what makes it so sad, because he is just so hurt that it like hurts him to even like look at her. Like, she like touches his leg at one point and he just stiffens, because it hurts him so much that she lied to him, and that he's so scared that what they had wasn't real. And you see him trying to hate her but not really managing it. And then it's also very clear, just like from the book, that like people have twisted his emotions and like tried to manipulate him before. And like even though we don't necessarily have all of the details yet, it was written so well to the point that that reveal just felt like such a punch in the gut. And I have to just commend Armentrout for that, because she really can make these moments count. And I noticed that from Blood and Ash, and I thought she just made a moment like that count so much more in this series. I talked a lot about Sarah and Nyktos. There are other characters I love. Like, I loved Nectis. I have always loved Nectis, even from the other series, and Reaper and Jadis. And I mean, I loved Reaper in the original series. I thought that he was so much fun. I loved his relationship with Kieran. I love seeing him try to babysit Jadis, who is a wild child. They're Draken, by the way, and they, I don't know, I love their dynamic. I love how both of them love Nyktos, and I love how they both love Sarah. I love how Jadis is a menace, but everybody kind of loves her, because I get that, because I have taught some children that I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's going through your head right now? Why are you bouncing off the walls? I love that kid to death. I love those kids to death anyway. And I thought that the way everyone loved Jadis was pretty realistic. So I liked that. I liked watching Reaver just trying to care for Jadis, and she's a lot. I loved the people in Nyktos' court. I loved a lot of like the side characters that we know become the primals later, but they are not actually primals in this series, which I thought was also just incredibly interesting, because you see them before they've almost been like buried by their legend as the primal gods in the other series. Bell was one I loved. Sion, I loved him. I loved Rahir and Rain. I loved Ector. I loved Eos. Yeah, again, a lot of them, they don't get a lot of page time, but I do like how Armentrout writes them, where I feel like they just have a lot of depth to them in the little page time that they have, and they all make a very clear impact on the story, and I really liked it. Oh, and Nectis. Like, I've always loved Nectis. I loved him from the other series. I love just watching him be a dad to Jadis, but then I also love just the really understated care that he has for Nyktos, where clearly Nyktos has been through a lot. We don't know everything yet, but we do see how he leans on Nectis, how Nectis cares for him. And then there's that beautiful scene where like Sarah and Nyktos had just fallen asleep, and like Nyktos hasn't woken up yet, and like Nectis just says like, you know, I consider him one of my own. And then he talks about how Nyktos can just never sleep because he's so anxious, but like he can next to Sarah. And then he just looks at Sarah and he's like, I think I consider you one of my own too. And when the reveal happens and Nyktos is so mad at her, the entire court is mad at her for plotting to kill him, Nectis is the only one that looks at her, and he's just like, I don't think you would have actually gone through with this. I saw the way you looked at him. This wouldn't have happened. And then that heartbreaking moment when you see that Nectis still loves her, and that he sees past the abuse that she has endured that has caused her to do this, was also beautiful. And the way that it didn't brush it off. Like, obviously Sarah has a reason, but she does have to grapple with the fact that she deeply hurt Nyktos, who had been nothing but kind to her. And yes, she was lied to, but then watching the two of them have to try and start to get through this was, I think really realistic. And I loved the way that Armentrout did this with Castile and Poppy in the other series, but I think that this was just executed even better. And I am like 170 pages into A Light in the Flame, and I'm watching them try and get through this, and I'm really liking the way that she's executing it in the second book. The whole reveal that Sarah was actually Satoria, the entire time. Satoria is the woman Colas loved and was obsessed with, and she ran off of a cliff, and Colas has been looking for her his entire life, because when Nyxos's dad was the primal of life, he took her soul essentially and made it so that she'd just be reborn, so that like Colas couldn't bring her back to life again. He would always be searching for her. And to learn that Sarah was Satoria the entire time, that was an insane reveal. And let's talk about Colas, because he's terrible. I mean, I think that I can definitely see how Armentrout definitely needed to write the prequels, because obviously in the sequels we just killed Isbeth. And so Colas is the final boss, if you will. And yeah, he seems pretty bad. I like how I actually haven't seen him, but I'm feeling like his twisted nature. I don't know, I'm just very intrigued by him. I think that it's interesting the way he's been twisted into this messed up version of the primal of life. I think the lengths that he has gone to basically erase the primal of death so that nobody can figure out that he was actually supposed to be the primal of death is really interesting. I'm very, very curious as to what he has done to Nyktos, because there's clearly some history there. When you learn that he killed Ethos, Nyktos' father, because when Ethos was the primal of life, he wouldn't resurrect Satoria, because she had found peace. And when and then the reason for Colas actually switching the embers and becoming that primal of life, so that he could do that, was also just so twisted and sad. Yeah. I have no idea what it's gonna be like when I actually see him. But I mean, I don't know. What I am garnering from what other people are saying about him is fascinating, and I'm sure that he's going to prove himself to be even worse than Isbeth, and I'm seeing that evil in him already. And how he had actually been taking all of the chosen and the right that Isbeth copied in the other series from the gods, and how he had been taking them to create the revenants the entire time. I thought that was incredibly sad. But I mean, fascinating. And God, when Callum showed up, that stupid revenant from the other series, my friend actually recommended me these books. She and I actually have very different tastes in books, but this is like one of those series that kind of works for both of us, and I'm glad we found it, because I can text her through it. And I think I just texted her the picture of when Callum showed up in the book, and I was like, oh my god, he ruins every scene he's in. And she's told me that he is a leech on the series that just never goes away. But yeah. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about was the prophecy. Like, the prophecy that got semi-revealed in the original series by Isbeth. I didn't necessarily think a lot about the prophecy in the original series, mostly because we were getting it from Isbeth, and I did not trust her as far as I could throw her, because she did twist it in a way. But like, yes, we originally thought that Poppy was the Harbinger, and I actually did like it when Penelope came and actually told us the whole prophecy, because it was talking about how the part that we know, where like the original king and the failed daughter were the ones that were going to come together, along with Poppy and what is Poppy and Castile, like the one that is destined and the new king will come together. That has happened, However, the whole part about the Harbinger, I think that they just sort of assumed that it was Isbeth because she misinterpreted the prophecy. But now I'm like, was it actually her? When they actually revealed the whole prophecy at the end of the book, it really got my gears turning. I also started to wonder if maybe the reason the gods actually went to sleep, that is actually another big mystery, because the only person that told us why was Alistair, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe they went to sleep in order to entomb Colas. I don't know. Also, I don't know. There was just a lot about the world that was interesting, and that didn't necessarily get explained from Blood and Ash, like the mist and how the gods can use it to control mortals if they wish. How the blood forest is from the blood of the entombed gods, and then like what actually happens to entombed gods, where you realize that Alona did that to Malik, and that is actually horrible. He never deserved that. And I mean, I've mentioned it a lot in my own life, but I hate Alona, and that just made me hate her more. So yeah, I don't know. There was a lot about the world that answered a lot of questions, but made the world also feel murkier. And then the prophecy. And I don't think I am supposed to understand everything about the prophecy yet, but it has gotten my gears turning, if that makes a lot of sense. Oh, and then the final reveal that Sarah was not going to be able to survive the culling that she has already gone through because of the embers inside of her is also really interesting. And the fact that at the end you found out that she needs to fall in love with Nyktos to survive. They're clearly going to do that. And I know some people may not like that trope, but that is a trope that I love. So yeah. We're gonna go through that in A Light and a Flame, and I like it. I'm like 170 pages into the second book, and I'm loving it so far. So yeah, I will probably make a video on that as well. I know I just rambled about plot points that I thought were interesting, but I ended up deciding to just like make a video per book, because I made one video for all of the Blood and Ash books, and that was a really long video. So I figured, you know what, I'm like back at work, I'm teaching again, I'm not gonna have the time to do that. So I just thought I'd make a video per book. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you watched this long, I feel like I just sort of rambled about plot points that I thought were interesting, but I am really, really, really enjoying this series, so the rest of the videos might also be like this. And also, I've just been in the whole back to school chaos. I started at a new school, and my brain is just in a million different places, so that's why I'm rambling, if you are wondering. But thank you for watching. If you watched this long, please tell me what you thought about this book. If you've read it, I'm dying to just talk about it with people. I loved it so much. But thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.